915 Talk is a production of Desert Voice Media. You can visit desertvoice.media to learn more.
915 TALK.
The world is looking at El Paso.
What will we say to the world? From the KELP studio in El Paso, this is 915 Talk.
And now your host.
Have you ever been driving down the road or down the highway and you think to yourself, that is a lot of church buildings? I find myself sometimes wondering about that when I'm, particularly one time when I was driving through what we call the Bible Belt here in America. I was driving down an interstate highway and it felt like there were more church buildings than there were houses or businesses. And when I was driving by, I thought, I wonder what's going on inside all those church buildings. Good afternoon, beautiful citizens of the borderland. This is 915 Talk. I'm your host, Andy Frecka, and today we are broadcasting from the heart of the world's largest borderplex. We're here at the KELP studio in El Paso, and we have Kenny on the board. Kenny on the board. You ever wonder what's going on inside a church building when you drive by?
Do I wonder? No,
Yeah.
I pray that there's salvation going on or worship going on.
You're praying.
Yeah.
You're more spiritual than I am. I'm just wondering. I'm just wondering what's going on. You know, sometimes you'll have a church building that is just being used to the max. Other times you'll have a church building that, well, I guess a few folks show up on Sunday, and then for the rest of the week, the doors are closed, and you have to wonder, is that why we have all these church buildings around? And of course, Kenny on the board, we are very pro-church here on 915 Talk.
Absolutely.
Absolutely pro-church. But today we have a guest with us. He's very special. Do you know why he's special?
He's the unique expression of an endlessly creative God.
That is
and
true.
I'm also going to assume he's a pastor.
Yes. he is the unique expression of an endlessly creative God. He is also a pastor. But it's interesting because he is someone, and the church is a church where, talk about being used to the max for a building. And, the church is not a building, but we do have these resources in the form of real estate. And how can we use that to serve our community? So we're going to be talking a little bit about that today.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so it's pastor of Westside Community Church. Do you know where that is? Kenny on the board.
Westside Community Church? No, I don't. Sorry.
It's on the west side.
Well, yeah, obviously, but specifically in the west side, no.
Yeah. It's also, it's funny, community church. A lot of churches use the word community in their name, but really how deep are they into the community? But this is a church, Westside Community Church is way up to their eyeballs in the community, and I mean that in a positive way. So I want to dive into that story of just how they're reaching the west side of El Paso. So without further ado, let's give a very warm Borderland welcome to the one, the only, Pastor Joe Williams. Pastor Joe, welcome to 915 Talk.
Thank you, Andy.
Yeah, lot for us to talk about. I had driven past Westside Community Church so many times over the years, and never visited until I was lassoed into driving a group of high school volunteers who were to spend their morning at the Mustard Seed Cafe. And I was kind of blown away at everything that's going on there. Give us just a overview of everything that goes on at your building throughout the week.
Sure, and that's why I put my old man glasses on, because we have so many things going on that sometimes I forget. You mentioned the Mustard Seed Cafe.
Yeah.
And they serve hundreds and hundreds of meals every day, all throughout El Paso. And they have a great ministry. You need to have Carmen or somebody from there on to tell you all the details.
She's been on.
All right. Then you know what a wonderful ministry.
Right.
We have the Westside Pregnancy Center.
Yes.
And I know you've had Deb Gray, the director, on.
Yes.
And within that, they have their own ministries. They have a baby boutique. They have a Mother's Day Out. We have the little casitas for pregnant women, for
Right.
a place to stay when they don't have a place to stay. We have ESL classes at night. And,
Oh, wow.
And that, you and I were talking about different languages, but for a while in our ESL class, we had people who from the Philippines, from Iran, Afghanistan, and of course all kinds of Latin America. And we're kind of rebuilding that. But it's wonderful to be able to do that. We have Trail Life. We have the Heritage Girls and Trail Life that come.
Okay.
We have the Jesus Suite, which works along with CPS, and it's emergency housing for children who are pulled out of their homes, and they used to have to go to the office or go to a motel, and now they come to our church, and they might spend just a few hours or maybe a couple of weeks until foster care can find a home for them, and we're really pleased with that. We have the Youth for Christ. They have their regional office at our church. We have a Westside counseling. We have about a dozen Christian counselors that use one of our rooms upstairs. We have the Legacy Adoption Agency. It's the only Christian adoption agency in El Paso. Their home office is in Dallas.
Okay.
And so, I mean, there's just so many things going on, and we're just so pleased. We have a school. Head Start is meeting at our place, and they rent it out from us, and that's been a blessing. Now, it's not Christian, but they allow us to come to their little graduations, and we share with the families. And kind of a heads up, we have Keystone Christian Academy is going to come in the fall.
I heard that. That's big news.
It is a big deal for us, and we love them. And there's a whole bunch more. We actually, for a while, had a ministry that the lady moved away, but for several years, she worked with trafficked women and got them off the street. So it's like the Lord just put everything together, and we're really humbly pleased to have it.
Wow. So I'm going to say, based on this, my understanding is you have how many thousand people going to your church?
Oh my, that's a loaded question. We have about 150 to 200 people. On a good Sunday, and I'm all excited, we'll have 200 people, mainly about 150.
Okay. And you have all these ministries going on.
Yes.
Tell me about the journey to get to this point, because not all churches are this open to opening up their doors to ministries.
You know, and I want to be really transparent with you. I had a long journey to become a pastor, and I've never really felt like, that I was qualified. And I don't mean that in a false humility way, but I've always struggled with different things, and I've been the pastor there, the founding pastor, for 26 years.
Okay.
But I've always sometimes felt like, man, what am I doing here? You know, am I good enough to be a pastor? I'm not a Skip Heitzig. I'm not a Chuck Swindoll. I'm not like even some of the guys on the radio here. I love Terry Gray from Calvary Chapel.
Sure.
You know, and our church is right in between 3 or 4 really good churches: Calvary Chapel, Coronado Baptist, Harvest Christian, a lot of good churches.
Sure.
And so I thought, well, will we ever get to be one of those big churches? and the Lord, pastors tell you that it's not about numbers, and it's not.
Yeah.
But you want to grow, and you don't want to be stagnant, and you certainly don't want to go backwards.
Right.
And so to kind of not wander in the story here is, after we had been around for about 20 years, sometimes we would be 200 or so people, sometimes less. People come and go.
Sure.
And one day, in my quiet time, I was really crying out to the Lord, and I was like, Lord, what are we doing? We're at this new location, and part of the story is we moved into a facility with 6 acres of land that had been a really wonderful church called Mount Franklin Baptist Church for probably 65, 70 years.
Wow.
And they had fallen on hard times. And when we came, they asked us to come and merge with them. They were down to about 40 people.
Oh, wow.
They didn't have enough money to pay their utilities, to keep the church going.
Sure.
They had a struggling Christian school, which was a great school, but everything just wasn't working out. And to make a long story short, they asked us to come. And we were a church of about 200 people at the time.
Yeah.
And so here's a church that we came in and they had facilities that, from what I understand, many years ago, they had 700-800 or more people.
Yeah.
And so when we got in, I was expecting us to blossom,
Yeah.
and to really go. And we never got to be 300, 400, 500 people. And so when I had my quiet time, I was reading about the parable of the sower, of the faithful talents.
Right.
All right. And when and interrupt me anytime. I
Yeah,
don't
no,
want
you're
to go
good.
on
You're good.
And I'm not exaggerating this either. I mean, sometimes pastors will kind of embellish things.
Sure.
I didn't hear an audible voice from God.
Yeah.
But I really was like, man, what are we doing, Lord? How do we fill up? We have all these empty rooms with this big church that was here before. Mm-hmm. And did we make a mistake? Maybe some great big church, one of these other ones, in town, should have taken over, because maybe we should have stayed in our old location and just been faithful to what we had.
Sure. And
when I read the talent, I could relate more to the one servant that only had one talent.
Right.
And he hid it in the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, Lord, is that what I'm doing? Or am I looking at other churches and maybe somebody else has 15 or 20 talents? And the Lord, I felt like he told me, be faithful with what I've given you. It may be a little, but be faithful. So I began to walk around our facilities, and what I did was I began to dedicate every single room, and even the grounds that we had outside. There was about 2 acres of land that was fallow, full of weeds and trash, and a few homeless guys camped out. And I began to dedicate it to the Lord. Say, Lord, what do you want me to do with this? And one of the things that happened is we had lost our school. The school had closed, and we were brokenhearted. It was a great school that had been around for over 2 decades.
Okay.
And about 3 months after we had lost the school, I began to contact other Christian daycares and Christian schools, and nobody wanted to come. And right in the middle of that, Head Start visited us. And they were having to leave their facility they had been at for over 20 years, and they had been meeting at a Catholic church. And they looked at our facility, but we said, you know what, we're a Christian place, and you guys are Head Start. And they said, well, but you know what, we would like to let you come and pray with the kids sometimes, talk to the parents when we have little graduations. You can volunteer. And then they took it over, and they began to pay rent for it. They fixed it up. They did everything they were supposed to do, and this was in 3 months after we had prayed. What can we do? So it wasn't empty anymore, with a huge gymnasium. And then after they began to do that, I looked at our little fellowship hall, and we were kind of the typical Baptist church. We had a fellowship hall, which was wonderful. We'd love to have that. But we would use it once a month or so for potlucks and things like that. Well, I had the idea, maybe we should use this to reach some of the people in the community, especially the homeless that were out there. We're pretty close to the interstate, and we could have invite them in and things like that. But our church, our size, we wouldn't have been able to manage it.
Sure.
And so in the middle of praying for that, I heard that there was this really cool place called the Mustard Seed. And that the church that was sponsoring them and letting them stay had become, and I want to be polite, but rather liberal. And they wanted them to do the social service parts and to feed people, but they did not want them to really tell people about Jesus, to evangelize, nothing to do with anything controversial at all. Well, the Mustard Seed decided to leave. And the minute I heard that they were looking for a place, I thought, man, Lord, wouldn't it be great if they would come here? And I'll tell you, I didn't even mention this with all the list of things. The vacant lot beside our church, almost 2 acres of land that was just full of junk and weeds, 5-6 feet high. I always thought, because when we moved down here, we moved from the New Mexico Boys and Girls Ranch, and it was a working ranch that had cattle and had gardens and we had alfalfa and it had boys from broken homes that lived with us. We fell in love with living in the country, but God called us back to El Paso to start a church. And the minute I looked at that vacant lot, I thought, wow, a community garden would be cool.
Uh-huh.
And then I found out the Mustard Seed had a small community garden, a raised garden downtown. Well, it's a whole nother ministry. They have farmers and all kinds of people. The man in charge, his name's Bill Hooten, okay? Mm-hmm. And he just about lives there in the garden. Well, they came over and looked at our property and they said, can we put in a garden there? And that's what they did. And they had hundreds of volunteers from all over El Paso. There's no way we could ever do that. And now groups of kids come from all over town. We have special needs children from the public schools that come and work at the Mustard Seed, go to the garden, home schools, Christian schools. And so something that was an empty, ugly, vacant lot is a unique thing that's blessed of the Lord.
Yeah, it was fun when I came to visit. As I said, I was lassoed into driving a group of high school volunteers, mm-hmm. and we were sent out to the garden, and I made the biggest mistake you can ever make at the garden. What's the number one rule, Pastor? Don't step over the rows.
Oh, yes.
I stepped over a row, and no, they were polite about it. But one of the jobs was we had to go and collect pine cones from one of the trees and put it around some of the bushes. And I don't remember what it was, if it keeps a certain type of worm or bug away. But it's really thoughtful, sustainable gardening that is producing a year-round harvest that serves those in need around our community. It's so cool.
Exactly. And they even have a little greenhouse now.
Yeah.
They have the hydroponics
mm-hmm.
with all the little fish.
Yeah.
And they grow microgreens. I'm fascinated by it, and I love it.
Well, if you're just joining us with Pastor Joe Williams, he's at Westside Community Church here in El Paso. We're kind of talking just about this idea of your church moved into this building that was, the church that had been there previously for 60 plus years was struggling, and they were kind of looking for someone to take over. And you came in, and your church did not grow up to 700 people, and you're praying about what to do. And you had this talent of this facility, and you want to use it to the glory of God. And you're listing some of the ways that it's being used just by you opening the doors for Head Start, for the Mustard Seed Cafe, for the garden, for Westside Pregnancy Center. And I'm forgetting a couple, but we do need to go into a break.
No, that's good.
Yeah,
that's good.
And we'll dive deeper into this conversation. I love having this conversation, Pastor Joe, just because I don't think every church is going to do that much with their facility, but I hope that our listeners can think, well, our church could do one more thing with our facility. What is one little thing that we could do to use this piece of real estate, this talent, as you put it, to the glory of God? Before we go into the break, this is your daily reminder that 915 Talk is a production of Desert Voice Media. Today, I want to point out that we have a YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is 915 Talk. That is the name of the YouTube channel. If you want to watch the radio, you can do that on YouTube through the miracle of modern technology. And one of the ways you can help us out is by going to the YouTube channel and just subscribing. And you can kind of sample some of the videos, see some of our guests, or watch live right now if you're January 30th. Year of our Lord 2026. I'm here with Pastor Joe Williams. In any case, we're so grateful, however you're listening on KELP radio, through the YouTube channel, whatever the case may be. So appreciative to each and every one of you who have joined us on our journey to love our city, love our neighbors, and give God all the glory. We're going to go into a break. Do not touch that dial.
We'll be right back. Don't touch that dial.
915 Talk is listener supported and is a production of Desert Voice Media. That's right. It's people just like you who make this program possible. Together with Desert Voice, you can learn how to better serve our neighbors and pray for our community. To become a Desert Voice Media partner, you can visit desertvoice.media. That's right. That's the website, desertvoice.media. Take a look and join us today in reaching our borderland for Christ.
At Westside Pregnancy Center, we're here to show the love of Christ by offering free compassionate care. We provide pregnancy testing, ultrasounds, mental health and biblical counseling, adoption referrals, a baby boutique, food and clothing pantry, emergency childcare, ESL and nutritional classes, workforce readiness, and a tiny home emergency shelter for pregnant women in crisis. Our phone number is 915-703-3001, or you can visit us on the web at westsidepregnancycenter.com. Need help or want to volunteer, pray, or donate? We're here for you. Westside Pregnancy Center, love in action, hope in Christ.
Testify.
So growing up, I actually grew up to be a Muslim, and it wasn't up until high school when I started going to church and I didn't know who Jesus Christ really was. It wasn't up until April of this past year in 2024 when I fully surrendered to Christ. I was an alcoholic. I was a man full of lust. I was just lost in the sinful nature of this world, and I didn't know how to comprehend certain things. I didn't know how to have a proper relationship. It was just tormenting me from the inside. But I'm here to tell you today that Jesus Christ changed my life for the better, serving at the capacity, knowing that I have a purpose and moving with that purpose because I know that the world is coming to an end soon. My name is Marvis Davis, and I'm here to tell you that if Jesus Christ did it for me, he could also do it for you too.
And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb
and by the word of their testimony.
desertvoice.media.
We're back. You're listening to 915 Talk.
We are back, and you are listening to 915 Talk. I'm your host, Andy Freca. Today we're with Pastor Joe Williams. He's over at Westside Community Church here in El Paso, just talking about using that church property to the full use of that talent. One of the many ways that you're using it, you listed just really quickly at the beginning, and that is, I'm going to call it the wrong thing, but it's essentially, I'm going to call it a hotel room, but a small apartment for families in crisis. If they've somehow, a child is needing foster care, so there's temporary housing.
Yes.
Paint a picture of what that looks like.
You know, it was a classroom that was empty, and it was just full of junk and storage. And so the Lord orchestrated this, but believe it or not, there was a lady from CPS, a really godly woman, Maritza Hernandez. She goes to Harvest Christian. She came by and she said, you know what, we've been going by all the churches and seeing if there's a church that would volunteer to allow children who've been pulled out of their homes from CPS to temporarily stay there because we don't have room for them. And she said, nobody's wanting to do it because of the liability and all that kind of thing. And I said, well, do we have to watch them? Because we don't have the staff. She said, no, we'd watch them. And so we prayed about it and said, well, yeah. So we took this one classroom, and me and another guy, a lot more talented than me, who's a plumber, we put a bathroom in with a shower in the room and fixed it up. And some of the ladies who are very talented, we made it a beautiful place called the Jesus Suite. So
The Jesus Suite.
The Jesus Suite's what we call it. And they come in the middle of the night. CPS will bring in babies, teenagers. Sometimes they just stay for a few hours. Sometimes they stay for a couple of weeks. We've got to baptize some of the kids. We get to witness to them. And then they're gone. We've had hundreds of kids that we've had them now for about 6 years that they've been coming.
Wow.
And it's one of my favorite. And I'm an old man, so what I put in there, my contribution was I found an old Pac-Man thing, and none of the kids knew. They had switches, but I said, no, you're going to like this better than the Switch.
That is funny. Yeah, but I want to point at one thing you said. You had a classroom full of junk. Was it a difficult political discussion at your church to throw away the junk? Because sometimes when you're throwing away old stuff that a church never uses, it becomes a point of division.
You know what? We've been really fortunate. The people in the church have always been like, you know what, whatever we got to do to reach people for Christ.
Wow.
We've had real laid back, easygoing people. And so I was very fortunate.
Yeah, I'm just laughing because I'm thinking of how many churches I've visited. And they have rooms and rooms that aren't being used, and they're being used for storage for things they're never going to use. And there's some things you can give away, and some things you could probably just get a 40-foot dumpster and make use of that.
I'll tell you a good example of that. I didn't even mention this. This is we had a room upstairs, a pretty good size one that was kept when we got there for Christmas decorations. And there must have been about 15 or 20 full-size Christmas trees, artificial ones.
Oh, wow.
And crates of different Christmas decorations. And they would decorate the church, which was beautiful because we have a wonderful, huge sanctuary that hold about 400 people. And once a year they'd use it, and they'd put all the decorations back. And I was thinking, wait a second, we're going to have the mustard seed, we're going to have all these other things. So we took all the decorations out, we put them in a storage shed, so we didn't throw them away, all right? And we turned that into the Tabitha room. We put a name on everything, okay? and it's clothes for homeless people and poor people who just need it. And then ladies came in and they knit clothes to take to people in Juarez, because we support several orphanages in Juarez. And so literally, you know, me growing up, I don't we'd have time today, but my kind of unique story is my dad was very anti-church and very cynical. And he was a really hardcore, hard-drinking businessman. And he made fun of churches for being hypocrites and hoarding their money. And that was always been in the back of my mind as a pastor. I don't want to be that way. I want to be someone who really uses what God gives us, because the people who give us the money, they work hard and they don't want us to hoard it.
Right. Yeah. I love that there's this, I would almost call it a secondary effect of all this. It's a church doing what a church should do.
Amen.
And hopefully folks like your father see that and realize, you know, we as the church, we're all messed up. We all need Jesus, but we're doing our best. And love to see that. If you're just joining us with Pastor Joe Williams, he's at Westside Community Church here in El Paso. You're there on Sunset. What's the address?
201 East Sunset.
201 East Sunset. It's kind of close to the intersection of Mesa and Donovan.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And we're right next to the police substation.
Right. Well, is that a good thing?
It is a good thing. We take food to the officers, and it actually gives us a little bit of comfort, and we try to reach out to them too.
Oh, perfect. All right. Talking about the journey that you've been on, I would love to hear about how you kind of took over the building from this other church. If it's okay, can I ask, did you buy it from them, or were they just looking for someone to? Oh
man, that's just the Lord. We rented Ornado Middle School for almost 6 years. And we met there every Sunday there on the west side. Before that, we started out in a Bible study in our home, and we lived on the east side. Pastor Mike over at Coronado Baptist had called my wife and I from the New Mexico Boys and Girls Ranch to come and start a church. We were the first church plant of Coronado Baptist.
Okay.
And it just never grew as quickly as we wanted, and we were excited. And when we left Ornado Middle School, we had the opportunity to buy a little manufacturing building in the Westside complex over there with 3 acres of land, and it was about 5,000 square feet. And we took that over, remodeled it, and the church did well. And like I said, we would get up to 200 people, and we were going to start a second service because it was so small. I've never been really good at raising money. We had a fundraiser, and we needed to, for the church really to grow, we were going to have to build a sanctuary. So we started this fundraising campaign, and I, to be real honest, I was kind of a failure at it. We weren't raising very much money, but right in the middle of it, a committee or a team from Mount Franklin Baptist came over and said, hey, we're about to close our doors, and we're looking for a church who would like to come in. And they talked to us and Coronado and a few other churches, and that's how we came.
Wow.
And so that's why I felt this immense responsibility. We have this huge, beautiful complex. What are we going to do with it?
Oh, that's super fun. First of all, that you used to work at Eastside Choice Meats.
Yep.
And now they're offering those bowls of menudo, and we're mentioning that every afternoon.
Hector White used to be the owner. I think someone else owns it now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, back in the day. You were talking about, what was the name of the church that was at your location before?
It's Mount Franklin Baptist Church.
Mount Franklin Baptist Church. And what I'm hearing you say is they were not looking to sell the building. They just wanted someone to take over?
Yes, exactly. They were they had made a difficult decision about what to do when you came to a point where you weren't going to grow back on your own. Mm-hmm. And so I thought it was very mature of them. And we really thought that they were going to become like a satellite of Coronado Baptist, which is a really healthy church. And,
Sure.
And again, going into all the detail, they had us do it, and we were shocked and we were thrilled, but it was very intimidating. What do we do with this big, place here?
Right. Yeah. I love this story, and I just want to make sure our listeners hear this because we've had Larry Floyd, who's the head of the El Paso Baptist Association, on this program, and one of the things that he really challenged the audience with was, if you're part of a church that's struggling, look at, and you have a building, look at how you can bless a church plant or an up-and-coming church with that building. And I now know of at least 2 churches in town, you're the third, where the church that had gone through its cycle, and I don't want to put words in Larry's mouth, but what I heard him say was every church has a life cycle. Mm-hmm. Every church. There are no churches that are 2,000 years old. No local churches. Only the church with a big C is 2,000 years old.
You're right.
Yeah, and he said, if you're reaching the end of your life cycle, that's nothing to be ashamed of. But how can you bless others with that facility? Because we're not going to be able to buy those properties now at market value, and so I now know of 2 others. One was a situation like yours where they gave the building to the I'll call it the new church, and the other they sold for what I would call a very philanthropic amount. All of these, you never know what the inner workings in those conversations are, but what a blessing, and that's what Mount Franklin Church did in your situation. And then it's just so rare to see so many good people doing good things, and one right after the other. And then you came in, and what I'm hearing you say is you came in, you expected the church to grow, and it didn't, but you also saw the value of the facility, so you wanted to use it fully to the glory of God.
Exactly. Like with the pregnancy center, it is such an amazing story.
Yeah.
And I cannot take any credit for it, but the Lord used it. I met with the 40 Days of Life. There is an abortion clinic about 3 miles from our church over in Santa Teresa. And I didn't even know about it. And I met a man named Mark Cavalier. And I don't know if you've met him before.
Yeah, he's been on this program.
Okay, so he's a really neat guy, a Catholic gentleman. And he asked me, because our church was so close, if we'd like to get involved. And I've always been pro-life. My wife has been more involved than myself. And so I went over there, and we prayed in front of the clinic. And he goes, the problem is we can tell girls, don't go in there. And sometimes we get them to turn away, but we have no place to send them. No counselors or any of that kind of thing. He goes, I wish we had a pregnancy center close by. Boop. We had 2 extra rooms that were empty that hadn't been used in years, and they weren't filled up. And so I was so intimidated by it that I called another pregnancy center and said, would you like to come over here and run it? And they said, no, we can't do it. Mm-hmm. And so we began praying and contacting people, and we ended up with a lady from another church in town who was our director for a while. Me and some other guys, actually, it was kind of fun. We cut holes in the walls to connect the 2 rooms. people told us what we needed to do. We had to have a certain size bathroom, and then we began to get people from other churches to volunteer. And I always told them, this is not to build up Westside Community Church, because I know how pastors are. You don't want to lose your congregants and things like that. And so that's a real fear.
Yeah.
And I said, look, dudes, we're 150, 200 people. So we're not going to steal your people. Would you come over here, because we want to save babies and tell people about Christ. And it began to expand. And right now we have people from the east side of El Paso, from all kinds of different churches, and they're all serving, and it's worked out wonderfully.
Yeah. What an amazing story. Again, I hope that if you're listening, I would not expect every church to have a garden, a pregnancy center, an adoption agency, an apartment for families in crisis, a cafe, and on and on and on. But there's one more thing you can be doing with your building, so be praying about that. If you're just joining us with Pastor Joe Williams, he's the pastor over at Westside Community Church here in El Paso. They're over on Sunset, close to the corner of Donovan and Mesa. We do need to take a break. Before we go into the break, this is the part of the program where KELP Radio would like to thank its impact partners. These are local churches, nonprofits, educational institutions, and local businesses that have joined us in our journey to serve our community through radio. And the one I want to point out today is Black Fridays. Black Friday stores, I think most folks know about them. They're the store of falling prices, and I believe it's $17 on Friday. Then it goes all the way down to $1.29 on Wednesdays, and it's always fun for me to go in there, and I think, I don't know what I'm going to find that's going to be of any value, and there's always something really, really great. And I walk out. I remember I've told this story recently. I walked out with a bunch of citronella candles because this was last summer, because I had a bunch of mosquitoes in my yard, and I got them all for $2, way cheaper than I could find them online. And my wife was super happy. But it's good people who are running this business, Black Friday stores. So if you've never been to one and you're driving by, just pull in and check it out. It's a lot of fun, and there really is a lot of great value there. I think all clothing items are $7 every day, and they're new clothing. So again, it's Black Fridays. You can find the one closest to you at blackfridaysstores.com. Again, thank you to all our impact partners who have joined us in this journey to serve our community through radio. If you own a business or manage a business and you're interested in what it would entail to become a KELP Radio Impact Partner, just reach out to us through KELPradio.com, and we'll just have a short conversation. I'll let you know what that looks like, and we'll see if if we're a good fit for each other. You can find all the KELP Radio Impact Partners by going to KELPradio.com and scrolling down to the Impact Partner section. We're going to go into a break. Do not touch that dial.
We'll be right back. Don't touch that dial.
Greetings, KELP listeners. My name is Terry Gray, and I have the joy and privilege of serving as the pastor of Calvary Chapel Sun City, located on the west side of El Paso. I also have the joy of connecting with the radio audience in the borderland through the Summons broadcast heard each weekday at 5 p.m. right here on this station. On Summons, we study the Bible book by book, chapter by chapter, verse by verse, precept by precept. Please join us each weekday at 5 p.m. for Summons right here on KELP. Greetings, KELP listeners. This is Terry Gray, pastor of Calvary Chapel, Sun City, and speaker on the Summons broadcast heard each weekday at 5 p.m. right here on this station. Calvary Chapel, Sun City is located at 960 West Borderland Road on the west side of El Paso. We hold services on Wednesday evenings at 7 and on Sunday mornings at 9 and 11. If you are without a church home, we would love to have you join us for worship and Bible study. You can find out more information about us on the web at www.ccsuncity.org.
We're back. You're listening to 915 Talk.
We are back, and you are listening to 915 Talk. I'm your host, Andy Frecka. Today we're with Pastor Joe Williams of Westside Community Church here in El Paso, talking about using those church buildings to the glory of God. Keystone School is moving to Westside Community Church.
They should be here in the fall.
Okay, wow. That you are going to have a parking problem?
I don't think so. Right now, you wouldn't believe how many people we have now coming to the parking. So I think with the head start, we might actually not have quite as many.
Okay.
And we do have even a little dirt parking lot where if something happened, they could overflow parking.
Okay, yeah. And during the break, you were telling me about badminton.
Yeah, even the gymnasium, you have this huge gym, and we use it, and I don't want any pastors or anybody to think, well, we've just kind of rented out the church. I mean, we have some great Bible studies. We have discipleship. We have lots of people coming to Christ in the congregation and people baptized. We do foreign missions, and we have our own, but we just knew that we weren't a big enough church to use all these facilities. So even the gymnasium, how many times can you have a youth group have a lock-in in the gym? How many times can you play basketball? So we were renting out the gym to different groups, and after a while, it got to be a little difficult, and we met a Christian man who has a volleyball association, and he said, you know what if I manage it for you, and then we can have groups come in, and we'll take care of them. Well, we had a lady from an Asian business lady who said, we have a lot of people from Asia who have moved to El Paso, and they love badminton. I had no idea. I knew pickleball,
okay,
but they rent our gym on Sunday afternoons, and I get to come and talk to them and tell them about the Lord, and I'll visit sometimes, and that's pretty cool. So I meet people there from all over Asia that play badminton. And then we have people who want to play pickleball. So it's pretty cool what the Lord's doing.
Yeah, okay. We have, I've lost track, Pastor Joe. We have Asian badminton. We have a garden, the Mustard Seed Cafe, the Westside Pregnancy Center, an apartment for families in crisis. Tell me about the saga of the tiny home project with the Westside Pregnancy Center.
Oh, man. El Paso's a small town, so I got to be careful here. But something that should have taken, I don't know, maybe a year at the most, took us over 2 years because of all the city regulations. And we were very, very patient. And we tried to do everything the way we were supposed to. And we had some really talented business people and engineers and architects. I have an architect friend who did most of the work for free in that part. But we had to jump through hoop after hoop. At one point, we had to spend almost $100,000 on a sidewalk that was probably 300 yards away from 3 tiny little homes that each one was only about 200 or 300 square feet because of city regulations. But we did it, and the Lord provided the whole time. It got frustrating, but it was worth it.
Yeah, so it's 3 tiny homes, and these are for young mothers who are making the decision for life.
Yes.
And helping them through that period of crisis. I've been to the tiny homes, had that privilege before they were open and inhabited and all that. And I look at it, Pastor Joe, and I think, if I were the pastor here, I would say, you know what, enough is enough. I don't need this headache.
Christians are good people, but we all, sometimes we do have bumps in the road with all the different ministries. We have a ministry meeting with everybody who uses the facility, the Lord's home. It sounds kind of cold, the facility.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Lord's home. I like it.
Yeah. And so that we can pray together and ask each other, okay, now you're using this room on this day and this is happening. On Wednesday night, the Mustard Seed had a community meal, and they brought people from all over the community. And so our ladies ministry, we have about 20 or so ladies that meet on each Wednesday night. Sometimes they use it then. Well, they had to go use another room. In a lot of churches, that'd have been a big deal. Our ladies are so gracious, and that's okay. And they use another room. And then sometimes there'll be another group wanting to use that room, and so we just kind of move around.
Pastor Joe, you're so laid back, but I think I hope that your words are convicting some of our listeners right now, because not every church is so laid back with the rooms that they have there. Why do you think your church is so open to all these ministries being there?
Well, as I alluded to earlier, it's part of my personal Christian journey, where my dad passed away when I was in school, and I was going to be a lawyer. That was always my goal, and I really didn't want to be a pastor. I grew up in churches that fought and argued and split all the time. And I grew up here in El Paso, so I'm not going to say which ones, but all kinds of different churches. And I never wanted to be a pastor. And the Lord called me. I have a business degree, and then I was going to go to law school. And my father got ill with cancer, and I came back to El Paso to take care of my little brother who was in middle school. And so it's always been on my mind that the church is not supposed. One real quick story. My dad, when he became a Christian, after he quit drinking and running around, he became really on fire for the Lord. And there was one church here in town that they were going to raise $100,000 for a new pipe organ.
Okay.
My dad thought that was the stupidest thing in the world. And he was a baby Christian. And he went to the business meeting and he told him,
oh, come on now. I like a pipe organ, Pastor Joe.
I love pipe organs too.
But your dad was not a fan.
No, he said, man, y'all don't need a pipe organ. He goes, there are thousands of people in Juarez that can't eat and we can't clothe them, and we're going to build a pipe organ? He goes, y'all have a piano, and that's good enough. So that's kind of the way I've come from. And so my idea was we got to tell people about Christ, and we want to disciple them and do all the basics, but the building shouldn't be empty all week long.
Yeah, okay. The building should not be empty all week long.
Exactly.
So it sounds like your dad was a pretty intense fellow.
He was. He was one of those guys that he was intense when he was a sinner, and then when he became a Christian, he was an intense Christian. He really inspired me.
I don't know you super well, Pastor Joe. You come across as being pretty laid back.
I am, but I get excited about certain things. I sure do.
So you come from this background where you're saying you saw so many church splits, so much infighting. As a pastor, how do you keep that from happening with your church?
To be honest, we had, after 20-something years, another church that met in our building that decided to leave and become their own church. And it's not easy, but I pray for them. They do well, and I know they are doing well, all right? And so I kind of, the older I get, I look and I understand that this is not about each pastor's little kingdom. And I know pastors here in town who would die for 15 people in their living room church that they have.
Yeah.
And so whether you're one of the really larger churches or the medium or in between, in the end, it's only going to matter what we've done for Christ, and not in numbers, but I think in individual lives.
Yeah.
If I got just a second to tell you something that's really impacted me, we had a man in our church that had cancer, and my dad died of cancer, and he had the same type of cancer. And the sicker that he got, it was evident that God wasn't going to heal him. And I would pick him up and we would go to a restaurant close by, the Jack in the Box. I'm a real big spender. And we would hang out at Jack in the Box and drink coffee. And towards the end, he was in such pain that when I would visit him in his home, he would say, you know what, Joe, I'm dying. And he goes, things aren't going right the way I really want them to, without putting any detail. But he said, would you just lay beside me here in bed? Nothing strange. And I just don't want to sit here by myself. And all the big programs and all my dreams of having this big mega church, I thought, when I get to heaven, the Lord's going to know who I loved and who I told about Christ. And that's what counts.
Yeah. Amen. Amen. Pastor Joe, I look at all of this, and you moved to El Paso when you were 4 years old.
I'm an alien from Roswell.
We were laughing before we went on air. My wife was also born in Roswell and then moved to El Paso. You have such a heart for the community and a heart for the Lord. At the beginning of this program, we say the world is looking at El Paso. What will we say to the world? because when I moved to El Paso, one of the things I noticed is what often happens is the world is looking at El Paso, but then a correspondent will fly in from New York City or LA or a place like that and then tell the rest of the world about El Paso. If you could tell the world one thing about this city that you call home, what would that one thing be?
You know, we're humble and we love you, but we'd like you to come and see what we're really like. There's a lot of misconceptions about
Sure.
El Paso.
Yeah, come and visit.
Yeah, come and see. I guess I didn't answer your question very well. You said one thing is that come and see us. That's what I like. Just come and see us and see what we're really about.
Yeah, very cool. And if you could pray one prayer for El Paso, what would that prayer be?
Oh, I think it'd be the same for any city, that people are lost and they need Jesus Christ.
Love it. And what is your dream for Westside Community Church?
Wow. I have a little sheet that I just put out for the church. There was 10 things that I wanted us to pray for, and I won't go into all of it, but the number one is that we would become a stronger disciple-making church. Because you see, all those ministries that I was talking about, I don't want them to be a substitute for us making disciples and leading people to Christ. And so I don't want to be like we're the social service church. I don't want to give that impression. So I always go back, okay, Jesus, how many people are we discipling? How many care groups do we have? And so I want to be stronger and deeper. So that's my number one prayer, to be a stronger disciple-making church.
Love it. Pastor Joe, what a privilege to chat with you this afternoon. I hope that your life and all those ministries at Westside that are there at Westside Community will challenge each and every one of us when we're driving by. And if folks are looking for a church on the West Side where there's plenty to do, Westside Community Church on Sunset. What time do you meet on Sundays?
10 o'clock on Sunday morning.
Okay.
And then we have a church service on Wednesday night at 6:30.
All right. Very cool. Again, thank you for coming in today. As we always say, let's learn to love our city, love our neighbors, and give God all the glory. This has been 915 Talk.
You have been listening to 915 Talk, a production of Desert Voice Media. To listen to this or any previous edition of 915 Talk, just visit desertvoice.media and click on the 915 Talk link. Let's continue to learn to love our city, love our neighbors, and give God all the glory.